let's talk a little bit more about the WWE releases from Wednesday. That's 2 days ago at time of recording. I don't know when I'll be uploading this to YouTube, so we'll see as regards that for YouTube. Basically Wednesday. So the list of WWE talent to be released was created late on Tuesday after Nick Khan was already in position as WWE president. So Nick Khan is believed to be the driving force behind this list of releases. The same system was used as has been used for previous lists, that being the cost-benefit analysis system. This essentially means that they look at everyone currently with the company, and what they do with that is they say this person is on this much and delivered this much. They basically set up how people are being planned to be used, how much people generate in merch and the like, put that against the wage that they are making and the wage that they would make when you get to live shows, and then use that to decide who is on too much for their overall input. This, of course, the number one person on that list was Braun Strowman, who was considered to be on far too much for his overall input. Now, I reported back in 2019 on Braun Strowman's new contract. Although I didn't mention his contract directly, I did say that he was negotiating a renewed push. When you negotiate a new contract in the WWE, you go in and you say, I want this. That is a push in addition to the money you want. Cesaro, for example, got a Universal Championship match and a top-level feud out of negotiating his new push. Braun Strowman got a championship reign out of it. Bobby Lashley, to my knowledge, asked for a match with Brock Lesnar that still hasn't happened. Rey Mysterio, to my knowledge, asked for Dominic Mysterio to be used on the roster. That has happened, and this is something that really shows the connection that these people have. Now, I reported on that back in 2019, shortly before it was confirmed that he had signed a new contract. I also reported that the Revival turned down offers of about $1 million each at roughly the same time. That is a lot of money that they turned down to leave the company. If they had gotten it, they probably would have been released at this point too. Lana also quite recently signed a major contract just before Rusev left the company, basically at the beginning of last year, the end of the year before. And despite her Total Divas work, which is always factored into her contracts as to the overall ability that she has to draw, even just on the reality show, she was considered of low value compared to other superstars, compared to the amount of money that she was making. Basically, signing big deals in the last 2 years, when WWE was throwing money at everyone, see also once again Gallows and Anderson, was apparently a very bad thing, and put the crosshair directly on people's foreheads. All released talents are on a 90-day non-compete clause. WWE talent that were not released received a text informing them that everyone else had been released who was in that list. Thank you very much, Corey, for the bits, and welcome to the show. It was that text that was then leaked to journalists, and you can tell that because the list was in the exact same order that was in the individual text, and which was then leaked, and which was then published on WWE.com. It was all very consistent. Braun Strowman was apparently, according to reports, considered past his peak. Vince McMahon apparently didn't agree and foresaw more championship reigns for Braun Strowman, intended to push him again at some point. However, that decision was taken out of his hands by the looks of it. I'm sure he eventually signed off, but he did not put Braun Strowman's name on the list. It was Nick Khan that did so. Vince McMahon was much less involved in this particular list. Nick Khan took the lead. More releases are expected, as the current system is to release the main roster talent, as we have now seen, release backstage talent, as has not been widely reported but as has been happening. Then they go out and they decide who from NXT they're going to call up. They then release NXT talent using the same cost-benefit analysis based on who they think they can spare and who is not of value even after people have been called up. Then they will do call-ups for NXT UK, 205 Live, and so on and so forth. More releases are expected, however they are not guaranteed, and likely we are not going to hear them publicly announced. We are instead going to see them come out in drips and drabs via journalists. NXT call-ups will be arriving over the next few weeks. However, this particular choice has already affected NXT booking. If I can catch up with the chat a little bit. Oliver says, does Nick Khan have any interest in wrestling, or is he just a business guy? I know his remit is finances, but does he care at all about the roster he leaves behind? To my knowledge, Nick Khan does not have much, if any, actual wrestling experience. He is primarily a sports business guy. And when it comes to the roster, he doesn't know them. He barely knows them. So for him, he is just focused on the actual statistics and the finances. When it comes to popularity, he does speak with the entire board. He speaks with the creative team. However, when that list was put together, I don't believe the creative team had any oversight of said list. Michael says, do they still get paid out the rest of their contracts when they are released? It depends on the individual contract. As independent contractors, there is some leeway for the WWE not to do so. I did report last year, and it was confirmed by, I believe, Voices of Wrestling also reported the same, that some superstars had been paid for their release. Other superstars had not. I'm not going to sit here and say who I believe or who I know has been paid up, but I believe some people do get paid up and some people do not, based on their individual contract. B-School Nick says, I don't get why they released Ruby Riott but not Liv if they aren't going to use her. I think the big difference there is that they're not going to use Liv right now, and there may be a financial discrepancy. That's all I'll say there. Oliver Gomes says, does Lesnar want the match with Lashley? Seems like Vince could only promise that if Lesnar had agreed. Just wondering what's held it up, especially now with where Lashley is. Vince can promise whatever he wants. Essentially, if he can say, I will give you a 4-year contract and I will give you this match, and then get the 4 years and not give you the match, he might choose to do that. If you watch my Football Manager streams, for example, I may call someone a key player that I only plan to use semi-regularly, but I still get several years out of them. So debate on that. According to Paul Heyman, Lesnar does not want that match and has no interest in that match. Lashley, however, will tell anybody who listens, literally anybody who listens, that he wants that match. And I've been told several times that Lashley is avidly campaigning backstage to get that match. I don't think, this is just my personal opinion, that we will hear about Bobby Lashley signing a new contract until he gets a match with Brock Lesnar. Ollie says, are there more main roster releases coming? I don't believe there are any more main roster releases unless someone specifically requests to be released in the meantime.